What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to do a brake caliper and brake pad replacement on a 5th generation Toyota 4Runner. Alright, for the job you're going to need a set of channel locks, needle nose pliers, 8 and 10 millimeter wrenches, screwdriver, ratchet, 12 millimeter socket, 17 or 19 millimeter socket, we'll get into this later, 21 millimeter socket, extension, torque wrench, and a breaker bar. You're also going to need some hose clamp pliers, disc caliper lube, brake fluid, the parts obviously, some brake clean. I'll link those all in the description below. Also a jack and some jack stands. The first step before jacking up the car, you're going to crack the lug nuts loose. In my case I have a locking lug nut here. Then before removing all the lug nuts completely, you're going to jack up the vehicle. Then add your jack stand for safety, put it up underneath the frame. Next, remove the lug nuts completely and remove the wheel. Now is a good time to check out the condition of the rotor. In my case, it's in pretty good shape. There's no deep grooves or anything on it, so I'm going to keep it. One more good thing to do is put down a catch pan or some cardboard to catch any brake fluid that may drip. My lower inner piston on my caliper is seized, so I'm going to remove the brake pads first by removing this clip. This clip holds in the pins. Some of these pins have a little cotter pin, one on each pin itself. In my case it was just a clip. You're going to tap these pins out, pull them out with the pair of pliers. Next, remove these spring clips from the top and the bottom. Next, using the channel locks, you can depress the pad a little bit. In my case, it's only going to work on one side. This side is completely locked up. Next, pry out the pad using the screwdriver. And I'm not going to have any luck on this side. It's all locked in there pretty well. Next, using the hose clamping pliers, you're going to clamp the brake line about halfway up. Next, remove this 12 millimeter bolt on this bracket. This will give us a little bit more play in the brake line. Then remove the bracket. Next, remove the brake line from the caliper by loosening the 10 millimeter nut. Next, remove the two bolts holding on the caliper. These are either 17 or 19 millimeter, depending on the model year. I believe 2015 was a changeover, so you may have 17 millimeter or 19 back here. Just make sure the caliper you order is the correct one. I'll leave the link down below for the correct ones. Next, take the new caliper and hardware out of the package and just match it up with the old one to make sure you have the correct one before you install it. Also on this one, the retaining clip and pins were pre-installed, so you need to remove these as well. The inside of the caliper, there's a dust cap that needs to be removed before installing. Right here, this yellow one. Next, install the brake caliper onto the assembly and reinstall the 2 bolts. Next, using a torque wrench, tighten down the bolts to spec. Then reinstall your brake line, thread it down by hand first, and then firmly snug it down with a 10mm wrench. Next, reinstall the brake line bracket and a 12mm bolt. Next, take your new brake pads and the brake caliper lube and lube up the back side of the brake pads themselves and any other part that slides along the caliper. Next, take the brake pad and install it back into the caliper and do the same exact thing on the other side. Next, reinstall the bottom spring clip. Then install the brake pad pin. Then do the same for the top. Next, reinstall the clip for the brake pad pins. Goes through each of the holes on the pins. And then the little hook goes through the hole on the caliper. Next, fill up your brake reservoir with brake fluid and just fill it up to the max fill line. Don't overfill it. And just keep an eye on this reservoir when you're bleeding out the air from the brakes. Back on the caliper, remove the dust cap from the bleeder. I'm going to do the gravity bleed method on these calipers. First, I'm going to loosen up the bleeder here. Then remove the brake line clamp pliers here and let gravity flow all the fluid down into the caliper, fill it up, and then come out the bleeder. I'm just going to put this bleeder tool on here so you can visualize to see what's happening. But you'll see the fluid come out, some bubbles, and then once you don't see any more bubbles, you're going to retighten the bleeder itself. While keeping an eye on the fluid level in the reservoir, I gave a couple pumps on the brake pedal just to make this process go a little faster. Once you see just straight fluid and no more bubbles, you're going to go ahead and tighten up the bleeder and tighten this down firmly. Then reinstall the dust cap. Make sure your brake fluid reservoir is full and reinstall the cap. Next, reinstall your wheels and tighten them down to spec. The last thing you do before you drive is just to press your brake pedal a few times. Just make sure it's not spongy, make sure it has a nice solid feel, and you're good to go. Alright guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And also check out all my other 4Runner and Toyota maintenance videos if you're interested. Also, all the links to all the tools and all the products used in this video will be in the description below. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.